Hi folks, and welcome back to episode 3 of Programming Thor with Grant. This time we're going to be looking at the Analog Oscillator over here. But before we do that, I've just got my first patch up here again, so as you'll remember, we've got that in mono retrig mode, which means that if you hold down a key and press another one, it will re-trigger immediately, and then when you release that key and while still holding down the first one, it will re-trigger the first key when you release the second one. What we're going to do now is put it into mono legato mode, which is a slightly different response, in that if you press down one key and then press down another, it will change the pitch, but it won't re-trigger the envelope generator. So you're just stuck at the sustain level that we've got set here, and then when you release a key, it goes back to silence at the release rate. Mono legato is a better mode when you're playing it as a monosynth. It's not immediately obvious why that should be, but in time I think you'll develop a bit of an intuitive feel for it. What we're going to do is set the envelope time to a fairly quick attack and quite a long release. Now you'll hear that when you do a trill between two keys, it just stays at full volume. But if we were to put it into retrig mode, it will go through the attack phase every time you press a new key, which sounds quite lumpy, so we'll just put it back to legato mode for the sake of this exercise. And I think we could actually save that as a new patch. So if we go to save patch, and we're in the Thor with Grant directory, because that was the last one that we saved a patch in. So we'll call this one simple mono legato, and save that. And as you can see, it's changed its name up here. So now what we're going to do is concentrate on the Analog Oscillator module. We might not cover everything in this episode, but we'll cover the main essentials that you'll need. So you can disregard this slider here because we don't actually have an oscillator 2 yet. So the first knob that we come to is keyboard amount. Now this defaults to 100%, which means that when you play a C on the keyboard, you get the note C, and as you go up to a D on the keyboard, it plays the note D. But we can put the keyboard tracking right down to 0, and it doesn't matter what key you press, you'll still get the same note occurring every time. And if you put it about midway, then you'll get quarter tones going up the keyboard. But most of the time you're going to be keeping that at 100%. Next knob is the octave level, which is quite straightforward. So if we play the middle C on the keyboard, then go down an octave, and another octave, and that's almost sub-audio rate. You can hear in each individual click of the oscillator. So put it back up to 4, then we can can go an octave higher, another, 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 and then we're getting into bat territory. As well as the octave setting, you can change the pitch of the oscillator in semitone steps, so when it's at 0 it's just on the key that you would imagine. So play a C and you get a C back. If we increase the semitone by 2, then when you play a C on the keyboard it will come out as a D. And semitone can go up to 12, which is an octave above the note that you started on. These settings aren't too important when you've just got a single oscillator, apart from the octave of course, but once you start to add oscillator 2 and oscillator 3, then the semitone settings and the tune settings become very important. Tune is just a fine tune. I think it goes in the range of the standard pitch and then a semitone down, then a semitone up. And just a tip, it's quite hard to get it back to a setting of 0, but one way to do that is if you hold down the shift key while you're moving the mouse, it gives you fine control over it. So once you get close to a value, if you hold down shift and then move the mouse, then you can home in on the value that you want a lot quicker. There are 4 waveforms available, and each of these has its own unique character. The default waveform is a sawtooth wave, which is the most useful. There are various technical reasons for this, which I'm sure you could find out if you do a bit of research on the web. Basically it has every overtone, every harmonic within that single cycle of the sawtooth wave. So it's useful for bright sounds like string and brass, and as I say, the simplest analog monosynths only have the sawtooth available to you because it's the most useful wave. The second wave is the square or pulse wave, and you can either select the waveform by clicking on the waveform diagram itself, or by using the wave selector switch, which cycles round them all in turn. Now the square wave is actually only when it's a 50-50 wave shape. Everything else is called a pulse wave. So in the middle, the square wave sounds like this. Compare that to the sawtooth. And you can also change the ratio of up to down in the pulse wave, and it gets progressively thinner towards either end. The triangle wave is quite a muted sound, useful for things like clarinets and flutes. And the sine wave is the simplest wave you can get. It's very pure. So that's about it for this episode. Just have a play about with all the settings. You probably won't want to touch keyboard, and The semitone and fine tune controls aren't that important at this stage. You just basically want to set them to 0 semitones and 0 tune. The octave is useful for selecting whether you want to have a bass instrument or something high up. And just have a play about with the different waveforms, and when you're on the pulse wave, try different pulse widths and just get a feel for how they all sound, and we'll pick up from there on the next episode. So have fun, I'll see you the next time.